Today, February 14th, 2019, marks the end of campaigns for both the presidential and National Assembly elections as stipulated by the electoral umpire, INEC. On Saturday, February 16th, Nigerians across the nation will make history as they file out in their numbers to make that critical decision that will weigh in on all aspects of their lives. Yes, as long as they're Nigerians. Now, most political parties are expected to have done the needful in winning over any available undecided voter. I guess some of them can't wait to see how fruitful their campaigns went. Well, fingers crossed. Now, the questions that come to mind are, did the campaigns really go as expected? Was there less violence and money politics in these campaigns? Is the electorate well educated on the task ahead? What are the likely challenges that may arise on the day of election? We will attempt to answer these questions and more on the program today. Of course, I'm not alone. I have guests who will be throwing light, or rather more light, on the issue. We'll do the introductions in just a moment. This is Nigeria Today, and I am Anne Jibuno. Welcome. Now in the studio to review the presidential and National Assembly campaigns is Ebere Ifendu. She is the President Women in Politics Forum. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you very much.
And also joining us is Bayo Atoyebi. Bayo is a friend of the house and he's also a veteran journalist. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's start with the obvious. How would you judge the campaign so far? Let's start with you, Ebere.
Well, it's been very interesting, following the two prominent candidates. Even though we have other candidates, they did their best. But I think because of lack of funds, they were not able, to show the kind of excitement that the PDP and APC brought to the campaigns. But give and take, the campaigns are over today, and
at 12
midnight today. Okay, so they have some hours more, to campaign. Yes, but it's been an interesting thing following them go around the 36 states of the Federation, making promises, and I think it behoves on us as voters to begin to, interrogate the campaigns and then begin to ask how they are going to implement all the promises made. It's one thing to come out and tell us, you build infrastructure, develop school feeding, education, employment, and the rest. What we don't get from them is actually the how they are going to do those things. So it's for us as voters, to x-ray those things. We didn't have the opportunity of asking questions during the debate because the two prominent candidates were not at the debate. So it's for us now as voters to ask ourselves, who do we believe more?
No, we had different debates. Oh, you were referring to a particular debate.
Yeah, different debates. I think what I understand is, the parties coming together to debate on issues.
Okay,
so, but the moment you bring them separately, it becomes just something that one will just come and speak and make promises, and the other will not be able to interrogate those promises.
Okay, now Bayo, tell us what really was different between these campaigns, the campaigns we had this year and the previous ones.
Well, this campaign, 2018-2019, have appeared to be strictly a two-horse race. Apparently, many people forget that about 72 other presidential candidates are contesting. And therefore, many voters, when they go out to vote on Saturday, will have the challenge of selecting from about 72 presidential candidates. Well, be that as it may, the campaign has been very exciting and very interesting, although it has appeared dominated by the two leading political parties. Virtually the other political parties did not make any serious impact regarding the campaign.
Why do you think so?
Yes, why do I think so?
From the money aspect that she raised.
Yes, but if you notice, you could see that the two dominant political parties took turn since November 16th that the campaign opened, and they've been going around the states of the Federation at rallies, prominent rallies, and emphasizing what they intend to do. However, The disappointing thing is that most often than not, rather than tell the electorates what they are going to do, they tend to be bickering about one another, what the other has not done, what the other has failed to do. So most often than not, the electorate did not have the benefit of listening critically to the challenges. And in a rally is a one-way communication. The candidates stand on the podium and they talk to the electorate, and it is an euphoria. Everybody shouts and everybody is excited. Sometimes rallies too can be very fooling. In fact, as far back as 1957, I remember Chief Obafemi Awolowo had his campaign to Kano. It was the first time he was using a helicopter in campaign. The campaign gathered a lot of crowd, a lot of people, because people were excited. They wanted to see the man who had come in a helicopter to campaign. But sometimes the turnout at campaigns do not actually turn out to be votes on the election day. So that is the area that I'm worried about. How are they able to get those who turn out at the rallies to have their PVCs and to come out on the day of election to actually cast their vote?
I can see you've been nodding. Are you saying the campaigns were not issue-based? He said something. Because we've heard reports. Some have scored the campaigns high when it comes to issue-based, on the issue-based point.
No.
Why do you say so?
Just like August said, all through the campaigns, you will hear the PDP chairman, PDP officers, campaign DJ, and the rest. You know, when they speak,
well, we don't need to call names of parties. We don't need
yes.
to do that.
Okay. When they speak, they you know, try to bring out those issues that the other political party didn't get right, and then the other political party also will do the same thing. They spend more time talking about, you know, the political parties and individuals within the party. They really did not spend time telling us about issues, you know, so that we begin to interrogate to say, okay, these people will give us more economic stability than the others. It was never an issue. The issue was, oh, this political party didn't get this right. The other political party promised this and they didn't do it. But they still didn't tell us that we are not just making promises. We are coming to, you know, do certain things in a different way, and then give us the instances of how that will be done. I think it was what played out the last election is playing out again this time. And so we are just going to choose between the two parties, especially some people will use religious interest. Some will look at it as an ethnic thing. Some will look at it in a different way, but not because they have given us a concrete thing to hold on to.
Well, let's talk about, you raised something about concerning money. Can we really realistically do away with money politics, Bayo?
Money politics, to my mind, is imbued in our political system. If you are a presidential candidate and you have to contest election, and there are, say, 119,000 polling units around the country, and you have to have a political party agent at each of the polling booths, because the system as designed by INEC is supposed to be transparent. By the time the voting is over on Saturday, all right, if you are a presidential candidate, if you had your party agent at each of the 119,000 polling booths, all they need to do is bring the polling result from all the booths, sit in your office and calculate. You will get your result. That is the transparency in the system, all right? But for you to be able to fund having agents that extent, that is why you found out that although there are 72 presidential candidates, it turned out that there were only about 2 forefront running here. So the element of money is there. The other one I think you are talking about is the element of vote buying. That is a breach of the electoral process. But it has been with us. It starts with the primaries. And I remember a newspaper today wrote an editorial and was harping on the fact that INEC in future ought to harp on vote buying right from the primaries level. For this election, it's rather too late. But what we need to guard against now, on election day, what we saw instances in Ekiti and Osun, what they describe as see and buy, must be guarded against. INEC has been very firm and has been making pronouncement that it is going to check vote buying. It is left for the security agency, particularly the police, to arrest those who will be involved in money buying, because that is strictly undermining the electoral process.
No, INEC has done a lot in its guidelines. They recently released guidelines to guard against this. Do you really think Nigerians have learnt their lesson when it comes to vote buying and, mortgaging their future?
No, they have not. If you go out to the street, you hear people tell you that these campaigns that we're experiencing, they are not exciting because the political parties are not throwing money about. So people see this period as a period to, make money. They don't look at the future. They don't even want to see the future. They want what they can benefit from. And, the reason being that when the politicians get there, they really have nothing to offer to the public. And so the public will want to get as much as they can. Yes, we have seen that INEC, they've put in so many things in place. I remember in the guidelines, INEC saying something about not taking your camera phones to the cubicle where you're going to vote. These are, things that they put in place to stop vote buying and vote selling. But the truth is that those things actually are not done within that circle. They are done outside. So it's the problem of the security agencies now to look for ways to help, INEC to complement what they are doing. But I tell you, the level of hunger in the country, you really cannot ask anyone not to take their money. If you do that, they won't listen to you.
You're selling your birthright for.
They don't see it that way. They don't see it that way because they believe that if they didn't collect the money, they will still have dilapidated hospitals and schools.
Anyway, let's move on to. Okay, you wanted to say something?
Yes, you see, there is a misconception about the fact that if a politician is seeking office, he has to give you something so that you vote for him. It is wrong.
Certainly.
And luckily, because of the nature of the election this time, you see that even advertisement on radio, television, the jingles that we used to see before, the numbers have reduced. When it comes to newspaper, the wraparound has reduced.
In fact, I was about bringing up the media.
So
how has the media covered?
So what we have found is that because of the economic crunch, everybody is careful about their spending. The spending spree, as we had in 2015, has not taken place in 2016. But the challenge that is being raised are issues like stomach infrastructure, giving the people something so that they'll come out to vote. That is political inducement. And for now, much of that has not surfaced. But what we are guarding against and what the alarm bell is ringing about is on election day. And that is why INEC has said even taking your phones into polling booth will not be allowed. So after you've been screened and you've gotten your ballot paper, there will be a policeman by the booth. You surrender your phone to him, go there and vote secretly and come out. Why? It is to forestall the idea of voting, snapping what you have voted to go and shoot somebody to get money from it. INEC has also raised an alarm that they found out that food vendors at polling booths are about being used as accessory for vote buying. And so INEC is doing something about that. And so, to a larger extent, measures have been taken, but it behoves on the voters and particularly the politicians to avoid that temptation to use money to buy the conscience of people.
Yeah, let me say, like you talked about the media, yes. It's important for the media to talk about some of these issues to sensitize the public, because the public, they have this already made up mindset that they must get something before they vote. And if you are not giving them anything, they will not vote for you. So the rallies, you see this huge crowd following the politicians, they go there because of the stipends they get. So it's not because that they believe truly, that the politician will, if I'm going to be conservative, I'll say 90% of the people you find there are people who went there to get stipends.
So she's in the political circle, probably she knows. But there's something positive I have found with the rally all around.
Yes.
Very beautiful showpiece for our culture. When the candidates go from state to state, they adorn themselves in accoutrement of that state. And I found that it was a very good expose for our culture, particularly the attires.
Okay, we'll get back to that. We need to take a break now. This is Nigeria Today, and we are reviewing the presidential and National Assembly campaigns. Let's go to the streets now to hear the views of Nigerians on this issue.
Considering the fact that the rallies and the political campaigns have been peaceful compared to the last election we had at 2015, I think definitely we're going to have, hopefully actually, we're going to have a peaceful election this year.
This campaign of this year are issued because the campaign is good, moving fine, and we are praying let the election become fine as the campaign is.
There are more of personal attacks than issue-based.
Okay. People should vote for the person they feel will cater for their needs.
This is Nigeria Today. Ebere Ifendu, President, Women in Politics Forum, and Bayo Atoyebi, veteran journalist, are still here in the studio. And we're reviewing the Presidential and National Assembly campaigns. How far? So far. Before we went on that break, we were talking about the media. And let's talk about the social media, its impact on the campaigns.
The social media has been on the forefront, but most unfortunately, there's been in the forefront of speculation and actually fake news. They have caused more anxieties than raising issues. And it has been the forum for the people that have described themselves, even on that social media, as wailers and hailers. And unfortunately, sometimes the conventional media also gets talking. But the good thing is that these conventional media have learned their lessons. They know that they have to check the veracity of anything they get from the social media before they take on it. But the conventional media has given us something to chew about. For a long time, some of the campaign slogans and the jingles will continue to remain memorable. I remember some of the campaigns, I don't want to day where we don't know the very lively. There was the other time I saw the vice president's wife. He was campaigning somewhere and he was shouting Gabadi, Gabadi, and you see everybody is getting involved. And what I enjoy about is the integration that it brings all the people around. But the fact still remains that our politics is growing. 20 years of our democracy, it still has a long way to go. But all things being equal, this is an improvement over 2015, and there's no doubt about that.
Now, Ebere, do you think the political parties complied with INEC's guidelines?
Well, in their campaigns, yes, I think so. But we have no means of measuring, the amount of money spent. That's a big problem because INEC pegged, spending to a particular amount. But when you look at, the campaigns as they unfold, you hear some of them talk about, some of these things we got from our campaign support group, and there's no way one can actually, question the amounts spent so far. So we still have the issue of money playing a big role in the campaigns. We still have, INEC not being able to track the spending, and that's also a big problem and challenge for the smaller political parties. Because if you look at it very well, most of them, flew all over across the country in their private jets and then the presidential jets too. So the other smaller parties cannot even do that. So, but where we have, a strict law that restricts spending, that will begin to cost every activity of a political party, that will help us so much. So, yes, the guidelines, they've really set it out, but how are they going to implement it? Because for me, all these promises from campaigns, all these promises from INEC, if we don't question how the implementation will take place, it becomes, just a classroom, work, so to say. Yeah.
I'll stay with you. Let's look at gender demographics. How did women fare during the campaigns? Most of the crowds were made up of men, and
not the crowd. You will say crowd made up of more women. But yes, but the proper politicking, that is as becoming candidates and the rest, you find that women didn't get the opportunity of becoming candidates of political parties. But yes, for them to participate as voters, they are, talking to women. Women should go out. Women must vote. We are almost half of the population of the country. But when they are distributing positions and candidates, they don't reason that we are almost half of the population. So in lack of internal party democracy, the funding, the godfatherism, intimidation and violence that women face in politics, and of course lack of legislation. Because if we have legislation that says 35% of women must participate in politics. Political parties will have no other reason not to obey that. So when you talk about inclusivity, the people living with disabilities, they're also not there. The youth, even with the not too young to run bill, that you can still find that the youths are not there. What did they do?
But at least an improvement from what we saw in the previous election.
When you say improvement, let me say something. Out of the 91 political parties that we have just 2-3 parties that are really strong. And if those parties do not give tickets to the women, to the PWDs and the youths, they have not done anything. For you to win election in Nigeria, whether we like it or not, you must belong to these dominant political parties.
Okay,
they have the structure and the funding.
Let me stop you here. Now, Bayo, let's talk about, we've talked briefly on this hate speech and the fake news. Did it in any way mar the campaigns? Briefly, please.
Well, fake news is false information that is put there for the purposes of causing a discomfiture, and most of the time for causing confusion. Some of them, immediately they have come on, they have been denied almost immediately. But there are something that have come, fake news came all over just in 4 years ago. And the main contributor that accentuated it is actually the social media. But be that as it may, hate speech, unfortunately, it is part of our political culture. When our people go to campaign, rather than talk about issues, they often resort to personal attack. So it will take a lot of education to tell our politicians that rather than get at each other, it's better to talk about the issues, because the subject is, when you get into power, how are you going to tackle the social issues that are the challenges? But talking about the affirmative action you mentioned earlier on, unfortunately, 2019 is going to see less women compared to 2015.
That's correct.
There were more women contesting for political positions in 2015 than in 2019.
That's true.
And I begin to wonder, what is the responsible for it? Because I'm aware that some political parties even gave ticket free to women to encourage them. Some of them had the prices for the ticket which others have to pay. Yes, had it reduced for them. But again, it's the nature of the fact that our campaign and political system is very strongly masculinized.
Okay.
That is it. If you go to the rallies even, you will see that it is predominantly used, mostly young men. But watch out on voting day. You see that the predominant voters on the queue are going to be women.
Now let's very briefly, what can you tell us about the security architecture, during the campaigns we've had across the country?
Well, I think so far so good. We've not had serious issues of security breach, and I think basically because you find out that where they have issues or problems, intra political party issues. They are not issues that people come from outside to bring to the campaign or whatever. So I think I will say that the security agencies, they've really done well, and I'm hoping that will also get to the point of voting on Saturday. Yes, there's a lot of voter apathy going on, but we're encouraging people to come. People are a little afraid, and they are wondering if the election will be free, fair, and credible, and violence-free. But we need the security agencies to, come out fully to let the people know that they will protect them as they go out to vote.
And Bayo, any words for the voter on Saturday? Briefly, 10 seconds.
Yes, well, everybody should go out to exercise their voting right. It is their fundamental human right to select the leader who they want to lead them. For fears about violence, I don't think there will be any, in the sense that the security have always assured us. The police are there all around, and the military too will be in the periphery to ensure that there are no intrusions, and therefore everybody should courageously go and vote. Voting is a civil duty, not a war.
Thank you very much. That's all we have time for. Bayo Atoyebi.
Thank you very much.
Veteran journalist and a friend of the house. Thanks for joining us. And Ebere Fendu, thanks for joining us. This is the President Women in Politics Forum.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's the much we can take on the program. And we also thank you, our esteemed viewer. Thanks for staying with us. And a quick reminder that you can watch episodes of Nigeria Today and other NTA News 24 programs online via www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Thank you for watching. I am Anne Jibu. Please go out and vote.